Hello everyone. Today I'm going to take you through a quick example of how to create a paginated report in Power BI. Now, paginated reports are very similar to SQL Server reporting services. They're just a little bit friendlier to use. So you can see I've got Power BI Report Builder pulled up right now, and this is where you're going to create the paginated report itself. A few different options on the left-hand side. The very first thing is we need to pull in a data source. So essentially, you need to pull in the source itself. And I'm going to be adding a Power BI dataset connection. And let me quickly show you what that dataset looks like. Go to Power BI Desktop. And I basically imported a Synapse database, which contains AdventureWorks data. So as an example, I just pulled in one table called dim employee, and I've got one table with first name, last name, and birth date. And I published this to Power BI service. So go back to paginated report. And we're going to go ahead and go down to paginated report example. That's what I called it. So this is a data set that's actually published in Power BI service. Go ahead and hit select. So now we've got the data source pulled in. This doesn't actually query anything. This is just pulling in the entire database itself. The next step is we need to create a data set. So this is where you're going to pull in specific columns, specific specific filters, that kind of thing, where you can query your data source. So go ahead and hit add data set, and we'll call this the employee data set. This is where we can put in a query and kind of specify which columns we want. So to do that, I'll show you a quick shortcut. If we go back to Power BI Desktop, and you can see we've got this table pulled up right now. If we go ahead and pull up the performance analyzer and refresh this table, it's going to actually create a query for us. So let's hit start recording and refresh the visual and stop. So if we open up the table steps, you can actually see we can copy the query here. And just to give you a quick little rundown of what it looks like, let's go into DAX Studio and paste that there. So that's what the query looks like. There's a few things in here we don't necessarily need that DAX doesn't necessarily need. So this, for example, we don't need along with this evaluate statement. And then in DAX Studio, they're actually using evaluate rather than define. So this is what our query looks like. We're summarizing a table based off of first name, last name, and birth date, and then ordering by first name, last name, and birth date. So we go ahead and hit run. This is what our data set looks like. Looks good to me. So let's go ahead and copy this query, go back to the paginated report, and put that in the query itself. And this is where we're really querying our data set. Last thing we need to do is connect to a data source. So we'll go ahead and hit that demo team paginated report example that we pulled into the data source right here. And go ahead and hit OK. Give it just a second to run. Looks good. So we've got our employee data set with our 3 column names. Now the last thing I want to show is creating a parameter. So if we right click on the parameter section and hit add parameter, let's call this last name. So if we want the users to go into the paginated report and be able to select specific names, this is where we would potentially be able to do that. Head and hit last name. And we want to give it a list of available values. So we'll get values from a query, and we'll pull it in from the employee data set, and the field name is last name. Looks good to me. Okay. Now let's create a couple visuals and just run it just to kind of show you what it looks like. So we'll go ahead and insert, and we'll pull in a table as an example. And you can see there's the header section and the data section below here. If you go ahead and click in the data, there's this little table icon right up here. And if you click that, that'll give you a list of all fields in your data set. So let's just do first name along with birth date. And then the last thing I want to show you is just what the parameter looks like. So if we insert a text box as an example, and let's go ahead and do an expression. We want to pull in the specific parameter. There's a lot of different options you can do here, different operators and functions you can create here, but let's pull in a parameter, our last name parameter. And let's go ahead and see what that looks like. So to run your paginated report, show your example, you're going to go ahead and hit run in the top left. Give it just a second to run. And this last name right here, this is where we specified we wanted a parameter. So the user can actually select a last name for who they want it to run for. So if you wanted a specific person to run, you could do that. Let's run for Hill and then hit View Report. And we can see that text box where we had the parameter, this is where you'd say Hill. So if you wanted it to be in the title, you could say metrics for Hill or, first name, last name, that kind of thing. And you can actually export these nightly through Power Automate or anything like that. Just a quick and easy way to run a report through paginated reports. Thank you very much for watching.